What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look at a couple tweets that were sent out yesterday from the editor-in-chief at the Escapist, and it really is about the ideology of review codes. Now, David Jaffe actually did an incredible, I really do believe this, whether you like him or not, he did an incredible video in response to this where he said a lot of just really, I felt very good things that I didn't need to hear, but it's like, yeah, you know what? I would have said the exact same stuff, so I think I'm going to. So let's read the tweets so you guys can catch up if you missed it. So remembering today that we won't have any God of War coverage at launch because Sony PR said they didn't like our tone last year, so I stopped requesting copies from them. First time I ever had that happen in 14 years of working in games media, and it felt icky. And he goes on to say, we don't need the review code or anything. It's nice to get coverage ahead of time. He also said that they stopped. It's not like they got blacklisted. In fact, he said kind of over and over again in some of the replies that he believes they are not blacklisted. They just simply didn't like that tone, and they stopped requesting the review copies, so they don't get any anymore because they stopped doing it. Now, this went back and forth with fanboys of kind of both sides and all that stuff. So here's where I stand on this, and it's pretty in line with what I always say. This is why I think even David Jaffe's video is something along the lines of this for God of War Ragnarok. Like, basically, just know who you're watching for these reviews. And that's kind of the point. And, you know, I come at this from somebody that I've gotten some codes in the past from some games I don't. I don't think I'm at the level yet where I get, well, I'm definitely not at the level where I get like every game I ask for. I can tell you that. But I'm also not at the point where I get all of the biggest games. In fact, those are the games that I miss out on, right, the most. But I did get a game like a Plague Tale. I've gotten Guardians of the Galaxy in the past. So, you know, I come at this from somebody who, you know, and maybe it sounds off to say it, but it's like, you know, would I like a review code? Would I like early access? I mean, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want it, right? So, of course, like, yeah, it would help. It would help me make videos ahead of time. It's cool to play games, you know, before other people. Like, that's just a general thing. But here's the idea, and I've said this before. You know, there is an unspoken rule in the gaming industry about playing nice. That is the general idea. In fact, hearing David Jaffe kind of say that really was like, all right, so it's not just me, and it's not really a secret when I say, like, you know, IGN, when people talk about, okay, well, is there money? Is Sony literally paying off people for reviews? No. In fact, and I've said this before, this Escapist thing, this is what happens. Not money. There's no transfer of money. There's no being paid off. You're paid off in I guess, like, information. You're paid off by being in the know. You're paid off by being part of the group. That is the paying off that happens not just with Sony, but it's the gaming industry in general. Now, yeah, Sony is a really big, you know, problem in it. Maybe the biggest of that kind of group. I know Sega, people have said, is pretty bad as well. But, you know, this is what happens is there's an exchange of, okay, well, IGN, you're buddy-buddy with everybody. But the issue is you can't step on people's toes. And there is kind of an unspoken rule about that. And now we kind of see it before. Now, this is not even the first example of us seeing it, but it's the newest example, right? Where they basically, Sony PR literally told this guy, hey, we don't like your tone. And they were referencing some of the zero punctuation, which honestly, and here's the deal. I've never watched an Escapist video in my life. I could care less about them, but that's not really the point, but I just didn't know anything about them. I had heard of them. I've just never watched or read any of their stuff, but I did watch some zero punctuations because of this, and they're fun. I don't know if I would go to those for review. I think they're more comedy, right? They're more like kind of information, but kind of making it more like lighthearted and like fun than an actual like deep breakdown of a game. But that's what they do. That's their thing, right? So no harm, no foul. And ultimately, though, Sony, you know, messaged them multiple times, he was saying, and talked about how they didn't basically like how they did that kind of stuff. And this is something that people brought up. I think even like Mr. Maddie Plays is an example of it. There was, around the last was part 2 time, there were people that were, you know, reviewing it. And the people that basically didn't like it, the people that were kind of hard on it, some of those people found it very hard to get codes from Sony after. I believe the next game that people really had trouble with was Ratchet and Clank. When Ratchet and Clank came out, because of the Last of Us 2 controversy, and yeah, like I think Miles Morales would have technically been next up, but I think it took a little while to get going, and even Ghost of Tsushima. But once it got to like the next wave of PlayStation exclusives, they found a very hard time, getting a code. And I think it depends on the creator. That's why I think what David Jaffe said is most important, right? At the end of the day, your worth as a person, how you portray yourself online, that's more important than getting codes early. And I've even said that too, where it's like, I'm not going to, and I've come to terms with that. I'm not going to change how I talk. I'm not going to say specific things because people tell me to. I'm not going to do that so that I'm playing nice to get a code. I don't have a Gotham Knights code. Was it because I've been critical about the game? Maybe. Is it because I'm too small? Maybe. I don't actually know. But if it's because of the critical stuff, well, that's too bad, in my opinion. And it'll be the same thing for, like, Hogwarts Legacy. If I don't get a code for Hogwarts and it's because, well, Alex, you stepped on some people's toes, I don't care, and I never will. And I really do agree with David. I'm glad he made that video saying that, because it's, again, like, I already knew it, but kind of hearing it from him was like, yeah, I'm glad other people are saying it too, where it's like, you should just be yourself. Because ultimately, if you build your business on getting game codes early, if your entire thing, like IGN, like GameSpot, like what, really all these big publications, but even YouTube channels, and honestly, they're becoming it too, and it's something they're gonna have to watch out for. If your entire thing is getting codes early, if that's the whole point of your channel, is you're just a review guy who gets codes, 2-3 weeks before the game comes out, and you do a review, if that's all you do, then that, whether you like it or not, that brings a certain kind of stigma to how people view you, because it just does. That's literally how IGN and Kotaku, now Kotaku's been blacklisted by a lot of these, but that's how a lot of these companies have gotten the mindset of them. Does that make sense? When I think of IGN, I think of maybe not in terms of the individuals working there. I'm sure there's some people that actually do want to do some journalism and don't care about the early codes, but I think of a lot of sellouts. I think really the gaming industry in general is a lot of sellouts, because it's just people trying not to step on other people's toes. That's what it is. And you, again, like, to pretend it's not real is hilarious. We've seen examples of people being kicked out of these organizations because they don't have the same mindset. If you literally do not think the same, you are kicked out. You are treated different. You're not talked to. We've seen it. We also see people that can't step on people's toes, otherwise they don't get review codes. Sony is an example, but I do believe there's other examples as well. And so it's not PlayStation versus Xbox. This is not the time, in my opinion, to say, could you say it? Sure. Like Xbox, oh, they're so nice with review codes. All right, fine. You said it. All right, there. It really should be more about the idea that who do you trust, or why do you trust the people that you trust? Because this is the thing. I actually respect this guy from the Escapist or the Escapist magazine more now, because it's even, I'm still not going to watch their content. I just don't care, but I respect them more, where it's like, at least I know. And I guess, though, because he did say in the replies, like, they do get games from every single other publisher, like, on planet Earth. It's pretty much just Sony now, that, again, they just don't ask because of the tone kind of comment. They just don't ask. So, I guess maybe I don't still, but again, it depends on the person. It's why you got to focus on the people, or the person that you're listening to, or people in general. You got to focus on their personality, in my opinion. You got to find people that you actually like. And again, that goes for me too, because it's like, well, yeah, I talk all this smack, but like, I have gotten some review codes in the past. And that just, again, goes down to, do you trust the individual? Do you actually, what's about that person? Because to go based off of, oh, this person always gets review codes, well, chances are there's probably something, like, sketchy is probably not the right word, but again, there's a little bit of tiptoeing that always has to happen. It just does, because this is an industry, and I think movie industries are like that too. Why do you think, right, when you have that, like, insider or, like, early access people that get to see the movie, like, 2 weeks ahead of time, and they tweet it out, why do you think that, like, 98% of them are, like, the most positive things of all time? That movie was the greatest thing of all time, until 2 weeks later when they do it again for the next movie. Why do you think think that happens. Now, there are some people that go against the grain, but I question how long those people are still around, right? Now, are there people that go against the grain just to do it, just to be kind of edgy? Yes, there's those people as well. Again, the whole thing circles back to just go based off the person. If you can tell that the person is not BSing, if you can tell the person is not a kiss up, right? And they maybe most of the time they say positive things, maybe a couple times they say negative things, you know, well, even if the person is getting early access, that person is still somebody that I can respect and trust. And that's what I try to do. You know, I look to people like SkillUp and ACG are two that I go to on YouTube. Again, there are some issues there. I think there are times that both of them do play like weirdly too nice depending on the game, but that's just my impression of it. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're always being, you know, blatantly honest, and that's totally cool. And that's what I hope they both do, right? Because both of them are actually examples of channels that really do only thrive because they get codes early. Their biggest things are their reviews. If they didn't get early access, their channels really wouldn't be successful. And that's okay. That's what they've built their channels on, and that's okay. That's fine. But you see what I mean? So I'm glad David Jaffe made that video. I'm glad that this tweet came out, even though it's going to be, well, Microsoft's a better PR thing than Sony is. That's not really the point. This is just another example of the tiptoeing that you have to do in the gaming industry to stay in the know, to stay with the cool kids. You got to tiptoe. You got to say the right things. Sometimes it seems like companies will tell you what to say, or they'll tell you they don't like what you say and you need to change that. Otherwise, you're done with them. That stuff happens. We've talked about it with review codes in the past as well. It's, again, why I don't really respect any of these and it's not even really the fault of the person that got hired 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 4 years ago. It's not really even their fault. I'm sure IGN was built the right way, like off of a good foundation, and it lost its way. But right now, you look to these companies and you say, let's be real, they're in it to just stay alive, to stay around. And you can't stay alive and stay around in this industry if you're not trying to make friends with everybody and be completely cool, not trying to step on people's toes with it. So that's how IGN does it, right? Now, does that mean they have to give sometimes a game a 3 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10? You have to be somewhat honest sometimes, but generally there is still that exchange of trust. Like, hey, we're not going to do anything too crazy, and you know, you're going to keep providing us access, and we're going to be like the go-to for this stuff. That's how the industry works. And this tweet is another example. So hopefully, and the tweet blew up. I mean, it got like 3, 4, 5,000 likes. I mean, it could get more. So I don't know if it necessarily is blowing up. And again, these are things that I've been talking about for years. Other people have been talking about for years. Hopefully, just more and more people start to wake up. That's what I really hope. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. And I hope to see you all on the next one.